No, because very content with living on this little bubble island of Lefis. Okay, my name is Neil McRobert, and so with a name like that you can understand that I have Scottish ancestry, and that was on my grandfather's side. Of course I've inherited his name, and I quite like my name. I like to have the Scottish roots, quite like that. I'm 62 years old. I moved to Greece when I was 27 years old, so with calculation that's 34 years here, and I came to work for a yacht service company. I was working in England in a factory building yachts. My profession is I'm what we call a yacht and boat builder, so I've done that nearly all my working life. And then they placed a small advert in a newspaper, a local newspaper, and I saw it and I thought, what have I got to lose? So I'll give it a shot. Then it came to actually making a decision, which was a little bit tough because I'd never even been to Greece before. But at that time in my life I was a very keen windsurfer. I loved windsurfing, that was my main hobby, and I did it with a passion. And of course I think everybody who lives in the UK dreams of sailing in a country with a warm climate, because windsurfing in the UK isn't much fun, especially in the winter time. So I gave it a shot, and here I am 34 years later, still here. Next to nothing. Obviously I knew a little bit about Greece. I knew where it was. I certainly didn't know where Lefkis was. Then it was before internet, so I had to look it up in an atlas, I think, where it was. No, I came here and I worked here for 3 years, and then I made a decision. I wanted to go and check out the Caribbean. So I went back to England. I spent 6 months in England, and then I found a job in the Caribbean, and I went there to work. Then I got a job there for 3 months to see if I would like it, but it wasn't for me really. So then I returned back to Greece. By then I'd met my girlfriend, who later became my wife. And then we came back to Lefkis, didn't find work. Go back to England and do a bit of work, and then when we had 3 years near enough, I worked in Athens, which we were younger, we liked going out, so that was a good experience. And later in our lives we have a daughter of 19, Lucy, and a son 15, Philip. My mother and father, they were very supportive. I had 2 brothers. I think they were quite keen because they would have somewhere to come and visit on holiday. So it was positive from all sides. But my mother and father, they said to me, yes, get out there, do it, and try it. Not that often. Now they're no longer here, they passed away. But they both came to visit. The first time they came was when I got married. And they'd never been abroad before, so it was quite a culture shock. I think the food. I can remember the first night we arrived in Lefkis. I travelled with my boss in the company, and we went out to eat. And we went in a small taverna, which is called Regatta, but the foreign people's nickname was the Chicken Shack, and it's very close to where I lived in the town. I had a small apartment, and they served the food on one of these stainless steel metal-like dishes. It was incredibly cheap. It was 300 drachms, so I think that's less than €1 now. Okay, this was 1987. But the food was served cold, and it was chicken and chips, and the chicken was done on the spit. But I thought, I don't like this so much. I like my hot food hot. So that was quite a culture shock. How different people eat. They weren't worried about it being hot. I like to think not so bad, especially if you compare it with most people on the foreign people on the island. But my wife is quite critical of my Greek. Never really been a good student. Just picked it up by speaking to people. But I like to think it's quite good, and I don't know many foreign people who speak as good as I like to believe I do. Yes, I should think so. I'm definitely not the same person I was 34 years ago. I think living on a small island in a small place with my distinctive blonde hair, I stick out like a sore thumb, so I'm very easy to spot, very distinctive. Just knowing everybody and everybody seeming to know me, whereas when I go back to England I feel like a stranger, not that I go back there. It's just the nice thing is living in a small place. I'm not sure if you can describe it like community as such. Everybody leads their own individual lives. People do keep themselves to themselves. But just friendliness when you go to a place where the people know you and they're always very welcoming. Whereas in England you just walk in because obviously it's a country of 70 million people, whereas Greece is 11 million, with majority in Athens. But here on Lefkos, small place, and you just feel part of the community, I think. Perhaps not being so punctual as I used to be. The Greek word δεν πειράζει. It doesn't matter. The amount of time I spend on the sea. When I first came here, I could go windsurfing 7 days a week. I think after the first year, by the time I started in April or May, by the time I got to the end of September, I think I surfed myself out. Just done it so much. But then the wind does become less at the end of the year. But just being on the sea, next to the sea, that's what I love most about living on Lefkos. I don't think I cooked when I lived at home, but of course as soon as you start to live on your own you have to start cooking. But I do like cooking because I've got a theory on that, is that if you're going to spend time in the kitchen making something, you're going to try not to make something you don't like. Having a Greek wife, she tends to do the Greek dishes, and I tend to do international or Mediterranean dishes. But we have specific foods that she will cook and I will cook. But we both like to cook and we enjoy our food. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. You're keeping me relaxed. Yeah, but when you've never done something like it before in your life, you if you're not apprehensive, you're not human, are you? You're dead. When I was younger, then we lived life to the max. We'd be out every night. And looking back, I don't know how we did it. And, before I was in a relationship, before I was married, in the summertime, we'd be out every single night till 3, 4, sometimes 5 o'clock in the morning. Then we'd have to get up in the morning and try and go to work. And it was quite tough in the hot conditions. Grab a very quick bite to eat at lunchtime. Go windsurfing, sometimes for 3 hours or 4 hours. and then go back and do a little bit more work, then go out again, and then just start this whole cycle. And I don't know how we did it, but life was very exciting and full of fun and everything, and we just went out all the while. Now I'm old and I'm not so interested in going out late at night. My idea of a perfect evening going out was sort of go somewhere nice to have something to eat, relax, have something nice to drink. That would be my idea of entertainment now, going out. But I think it's important to have somewhere nice where you live, you feel comfortable in, and having, all the things you like to have in your house. And of course, that's completely changed from when I first came here. I mean, when I first came here, I didn't even have a television, so just listened to music in the house, no television, so that was quite different. And but just, having a few friends. But Greek people they don't tend to come and visit you in your home much. It's not a very Greek thing just to pop round and see one another. You have to everything has to be announced and prepared, which in England, if you feel like it, you just say, I'm going to go and see my friend, and you just knock on the door and say, yeah, put the kettle on. Whereas here it's a little bit different. I guess we all reminisce when we were young, and the things we used to do when we were young, and remember these things with fondness. I guess when we're young in England, the biggest part of social life is going to the pub, and so you remember those times. But when I don't go back to England much, but if I go to the local pub now, I could go in there and feel an absolute total stranger and hardly recognise a soul. So those days are gone, and all the pubs in England now are all restaurants more than pubs, out in the countryside. So those days you can try and think you could go back to them, but they don't exist. Living here as a sailor, it's got to be one of the greatest areas to sail in. Well, okay, I'm not a world sailor. I've done the only places I've really sailed, very, very little in the UK, mainly windsurfing in the UK, but here I learned to sail a yacht with different friends, and then I got my own yacht, and we took part in local racing, which was the greatest thing I've ever done. Really loved that and did that with passion for over 10 years, maybe 15 years. So obviously did a bit of sailing where I was in the Caribbean, that was nice. But here, the only bad thing here now is the number of boats and people. And not many people actually get to sail because they're all rushing for harbour space. And so the winds are thermal winds. So if you're going in the harbour and tying up at 2 or 3 o'clock, you're not doing much sailing, a lot of motoring. But if you've got local knowledge, you can usually find somewhere to arrive late and squeeze in, or you have to anchor off and go ashore with a dinghy. But for me, it's all about the sailing. It's not about going somewhere with the engine. If I can't go with the sails, then I'm not really interested to go anywhere, unless I'm doing a delivery, obviously. Who is Leona? Leona's my little baby. Yacht I bought as an insurance write-off, and I repaired myself. And this was the joy of my life for many years. I think I bought her in 2003, and I've just sold her to our good friend Tree, which should be nice because we'll get to do a little bit of sailing on her still. And she was an amazing little boat to sail on, not very big, 10 metres, 33 feet. But with this boat we took part in all the local regattas very successfully, much to a lot of people's annoyance. And twice I went to Italy for a regatta. There's a regatta each June from Brindisi to north of Corfu, Cassiope. And my only regret was I didn't do it sooner, because that was my greatest regatta experience, and amazing feeling to be part of the fleet the first year, 135 yachts, and then we're on quite an old boat, good boat, but old, and so like one of the slower boats in the fleet, still being able to compete and having an amazing time. I think the results are proof that the boat and the people who sailed her were the best. Lost count. Ask my wife how many cups she has to clean. She's given up now, she's thrown them all out. She's fed up dusting them. We only did it once or twice. I can't remember now. Did we do it once or twice? We only did it once. We took over running the regatta because the people who originally did it pulled out quite late, and to continue it, we decided to do it. I think we only did it. Tree and I only organised it once together, but Tree, she was involved in it before me. And they have a onesie of shame. You know what a onesie is? It's a one-piece sleeping suit. And they had one which was pink, a unicorn. And if somebody did something foolish or silly, then they had to wear it for the evening in the entertainment part of the evening. And it was going to be difficult to make me to wear it, but they managed to make me wear it one night. So fortunately, I don't think there's too many photos of that, I'm glad to say. I certainly don't have one. I suppose fear of the unknown. Not really. I'm maybe courageously foolish in my life. I don't know. I've always courted danger. I adapted to sailing very easily without any lessons. I'm basically a self-taught sailor. Learned off friends, obviously, who come sailing with me. Nothing really is, I adapt to the situations quite easily. Morning, but when I was younger, I liked the night. Motorbikes, first love. Later in life, boats, more easy. Fish, but I do like meat. Favourite Greek word? Maybe it's an expression. Iste dialo. Iste dialo. Go to the hell. Brexit. I have very strong feelings on this, and this is torn apart friends and family, which is a great shame. But my belief is that Brexit is a very bad thing. I think living here makes you feel more European as a foreigner in the country, and you understand the freedom the European Union gave all the English people living here. Now life is much more difficult for English people wanting to come here or live here, and people with boats and restrictions. Of course, the European Union has got its faults, as any organisation will, but I just think it was an opportunity by these English politicians to grab power. That's my personal view on it, and I find it all very, very annoying. I find it painful to see what's happening in my country. And of course, then I know people who will say I'm just talking a lot of rubbish. Try and live out the rest of my life, what I've got left in this beautiful island. I've got together with my wife, we've got an old property we want to renovate, which is going to be quite fantastic once we manage to do it. Things like that are not easy in Greece. Bureaucracy exists. But that's our next big project of what we're planning on doing. She inherited this from her parents. Father inherited from his father. It's an old house right next to the Castro. I'd like to show it to you all. And if we can achieve it, it's just going to be a magical place. I don't know, Ren. I really don't know. Possibly, I don't know, it's difficult to say. My life turned out quite well, I suppose. But of course, we all feel that we could do better, yeah? But what is better, yeah? I told you before, my profession, yacht and boat builder, so I work with my hands and my mind. But I feel I didn't do very well at school. But I could have done a lot better if I'd been more inclined and hadn't had a change of school when I was young. So I think, I like designing things and making things. So maybe architectural design could have been a better forte in life for me, but then I would have ended up living and working here in Lucas. So in that respect, it turned out well. I guess the soundest advice would be to, if you find a place in Greece that you really like, rent a house there and experience living in that place for a year. You couldn't just do it in the summer, because summer life and winter life is totally different. So you would need to pick a place. Maybe you'd need to go on holiday to Greece and try and find that, what you regard as your dream location, and then find somewhere which is suitable for you, rent it, and then before, obviously buying, because that's a big step, but rent somewhere for a year and see if you really like it.